deck. All the usual suspects: Mongoose, Delvers, Tarmogoyfs, one single Solitaire Snapcaster, Force of Will, Daze, Spell Pierce, Stifle, Brainstorm, Ponder, Lightning Bolt, and 3 Gitaxian Probe.
Yeah, the more I look at Robert's deck, Chris Roberts' deck, the less it is Team America, the more it is just Bug Delver. There's also Deathrite Shaman in his list, so...
Right.
Team America was an old school deck, probably about 2 years ago, 2.5 years ago, it got popular, then it really died off. But we'll see what happens this game. Chris leads off with a Deathrite Shaman off of a Bayou.
And that gets Force of Willed by Jacob Wilson. So Jacob, no permanence in play, but is able to interact with his opponent's turn 1 here.
Yeah, he's removing a Gitaxian Probe, something you don't see too often.
Yeah, he's playing 3 of them, too.
Wow, 3 Gitaxian Probes, all right. How many lands is he playing? It looks like he's playing 18 lands. Okay, 18 lands, pretty much a normal land count for Rug Delver. Some play 19, some play 17, but I want to say 18 is about average there.
Yeah. So Jacob Wilson is a Grand Prix winner. You might not recognize him if you're from the East Coast, but he's a West Coast player. He's sporting the Channel Fireball shirt, and he plays there with LSV. Actually, I was talking with Ruben before this match about him, and LSV said when Jacob Wilson started playing at a store that Jacob Wilson would win a Grand Prix.
Oh, really? That's awesome.
He called me.
All right, so Jacob then plays a Volcanic Island, and he's going to fall to 17. So far, he paid 1 life from the Force of Will and 2 life from the Gitaxian Probe.
Yep, so he knows about the Daze in Chris Roberts' hand, which is going to play a pretty big role in how Jacob Wilson plays out the rest of the game. He's not going to play into the Daze unless he absolutely has to.
Yeah, I think right here Chris wants to sack that polluted Delta, and there's going to be a Stifle.
And we'll see if...
yeah, I mean, Chris doesn't have anything for that.
Yeah,
so,
no island to return from the Daze, that Bayou.
Yeah, I think it was pretty obvious that Jacob had a Stifle. He ended up paying the 2 life of the Gitaxian Probe. Just a bit fishy there. I don't think I would have sacrificed that polluted Delta.
Yeah, it's not like he had to play around any kind of Dazes with the untapped land because Chris Roberts did have that Bayou.
Yeah, I mean, and there's no need to have the Torok on turn 2 if you don't really... there's just no pressure. You're not playing against the combo deck. You're not playing against a deck where it's, I have to try to disrupt you as fast as I could. So we'll see how this game pans out. Jacob is tanking on a Brainstorm here. He set aside 2 cards. Let's see if that's going to be his final decision. And it is. It looks like he put back something along with the Tropical Island, probably signifying that he has more than enough lands.
Right.
When you're playing Rug Delver,
there's the Trop right off the top.
You only really need 2 lands to function off everything.
Right, and even that. Unless your opponent's wastelanding you, you could even get by with 1 land if you don't have any Tarmogoyfs.
Yeah, sure. That's definitely fair. A lot of your spells are either free or 1-casted cards.
Right. So he plays a 1/1 Nimble Mongoose. If you're not familiar with the Goose, it's a 1/1 Shroud for 1. When you have 7 cards in your yard, it's a 3/3.
Yep. Threshold.
Right.
Mechanic from way back in the day.
Oh yeah.
All right. So Chris is going to play a Brainstorm here. I see lots of foils in his hand.
Yeah,
Looks
you know,
like...
it's really fun to watch these Legacy players come out because a Legacy deck's not like Standard. If you invest in 4 foil Liliana of the Veil, sure, it's going to retain some of the value when it rotates, but it's only going to be in Standard for 2 years. That Brainstorm that Chris has had, if he got that 10, 15 years ago, it's only went up, and it's always been played.
Yeah.
Pretty cool.
Yeah. Yeah, it's crazy, about 10 years ago.
Yeah.
Yes, 2013 already. Mercadian Mask was what, 2000?
2000?
2000 about, yeah, right? Okay.
Yeah.
All right, and Chris will pass the turn. So Jacob only used 2 more cards in his yard to acquire Threshold. Normally, the Rug Delver deck is pretty good at that.
Yeah, it is. It has all these fetches, all these cantrips, Force of Will, Gitaxian Probe, Stifle. All these cost 0 mana or 1 mana, and it's so easy to get 7 usually.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. So I'm excited to see what M14 will bring to Legacy. Maybe Rug Delver will get something. Maybe Bug Delver will get something.
Yeah.
We don't really know yet. There is a Tarmogoyf from Jacob Wilson, and that's going to be met with a Daze. All right. So that's 6 cards in Jacob's yard. So Chris will fall down to 18 life, and I believe Jacob will probably just pass the turn here, which he does. Jacob draws a Wasteland. Now, what are your thoughts about going after one of his sources? Maybe take out his green, give him Threshold. Is it not worth it? Most of the time, Jacob's just going to have Threshold anyway, since he's 1 card away.
Right. If he had 4 or 5 cards, I would never wasteland. But having 6, if Jacob wants Threshold, he's going to have Threshold next turn.
Right.
So
instead, Chris plays a Ponder. I do see a Force of Will and another Daze.
Okay. So, it seems like Daze is so out of place in Legacy if you're not a familiar Legacy player, but Daze, even on turn 10, turn 12, turn 15, a lot of times it gets a spell because of all the wastelands back and forth,
Yeah,
because
exactly.
of the really low land counts, the brainstorm shuffling away the XX land.
Yeah, even in Vintage, I played Vintage not too long ago, and I played a deck that has Spell Pierce and Daze along with Force of Will and Mental Misstep.
Wow.
As a counter. So it's all the cheapest counters in the game / free counters.
Right. So yeah, Ponder from Jacob Wilson. That's going to enable Threshold on his Mongoose. 3/3.
Can't really tell if Jacob's going to keep or what he has on top, but we do know that the Threshold is intact now, and the Nimble Mongoose will be a 3/3. It's not hexproof. For those of you who just started playing, hexproof and Shroud is different.
It is. A lot of players never really played when Shroud was a thing.
It wasn't even called Shroud.
Right,
it was just,
right.
It can't be the target of spells by your opponents.
Right.
Spells or abilities by your opponents.
It could be a more frustrating ability because, you have these creature enchantments, you have these equipment that you can't equip to your creature, but really they were more fair Magic cards.
Sure.
A lot less frustrating to play against.
All right, so Chris lost his Bayou due to Jacob's Wasteland. Now he replays a Misty Rainforest, and it looks like that Hemtatorok is just getting stuck in his hand. It might be two Hemtatoroks, is it? I see a Liliana, a Hem. Oh, it's Abrupt Decay.
Oh, okay.
So the Abrupt Decay is not going to really do too much here. The Daze is probably not going to do that much. Chris is in a pretty rough spot.
Yeah, he really needs to find a second black source to enable his Liliana of the Veil.
Yeah.
That's his only real way to deal with that Nimble Mongoose besides blocking it down.
A second Nimble Mongoose.
Uh-oh.
Yep.
And if Chris could fight over this, he definitely would. But Daze isn't going to cut it. He really has to get that Liliana online.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. Something like Engineering Explosives is something really good. Most of the time you don't see it in player sideboards, and I really wonder why. Why no Engineering Explosives?
Yeah, it's a really good card. It's a little mana intensive for Legacy. It costs 1 and then 2, or 2 and then 2. So
sure.
4 mana total, but the ability to split it up over multiple turns is really good.
All right. So Chris fetches up an Underground Sea.
And it looks like he's going for a hard cast Daze on this just to tap Jacob Wilson out in the hopes that he draws a Liliana. I don't know why he would have fetched otherwise.
Yeah, not too sure what's happening here. He's definitely in the tank.
Yeah,
weighing his options.
He wants to to tap Jacob Wilson out of that blue mana so he can't spell pierce the Liliana. But he decides against it.
Yeah, I mean that wouldn't really make sense because if that would be the case, he could just daze the spell pierce.
Right.
So it would just be the same thing. Yeah.
I'm not sure. I think he went to fetch and counter it to tap Jacob Wilson out, but maybe thought better of it at the last minute.
Maybe he got confused with the Abrupt Decay, or maybe he just wanted to fetch it up there. So we'll see what happens.
In Legacy, usually, if you're not going to use the land that you fetch, it's not a good play to use the fetch land, unless you're playing on something like a Stifle.
Sure. All right, so Wasteland on the Volcanic Island, and there's going to be a Lightning Bolt going at Chris's head.
Wow.
And I believe a Daze will happen here.
Yeah, Chris has to daze this. I don't.
So he's going to produce either blue or black.
With the alternate cost.
Yeah, I guess he's trying to play around Jacob's Daze.
With that alternate cost Daze, I have no idea what Chris Roberts' plan is. He's not going to be able to play the Liliana even if he draws a black source now.
Yeah, that really didn't make much sense, to be honest. We'll see what happens here. And he would have drawn the black source.
Wow.
Yeah.
So potential misplay there by Chris Roberts. But
yeah, looked a little inexperienced there. Maybe not too familiar with Legacy. We'll find out how they're going to sideboard, though. So first taking a look at Chris Roberts' deck. Let's see. Leyline of the Void, definitely not. Dark Blast is pretty good. Hit a Delver.
Yeah.
All right, why not?
I think board that one in.
Engineer Plague. It's pretty slow. Engineer
pretty
Plague.
Marginal. It's like 3 mana way to kill a Delver. Why not just bring in the cheaper removal spell?
Exactly. I mean, Engineer Plague is something that you really want against goblins. It's something that you really want against combo elves. Other matchups where someone has a specific tribal of creatures you want it against.
Right.
Jace the Mind Sculptor, no way. Jace the Mind Sculptor is really good against any like mid-range to control-y deck, but against something as fast as Rug Delver, it's tough for you to get up to 4 mana. And if you do get up to 4 mana, a Daze could just be sitting in Jacob Wilson's hand.
Right.
Other than that, it's a Maelstrom Pulse. Not really in love.
Yeah,
It
3
does.
mana is
yeah,
way
3
too
mana
much.
is expensive. It does answer Tormagoyf, but again, 3 mana is a lot. 2 Duress, I can see those coming in for sure. Spell Pierce, maybe.
I would like to bring in the Spell Pierce in this matchup, especially on the play.
Okay, that's fair. Stop a Brainstorm, stop a Ponder.
Right,
Okay.
exactly. Really, Chris Roberts' deck is just not very well set up to fight against this Rug Delver deck. He has virtually no answers to Nimble Mongoose. Really, the key card in the matchup is Deathrite Shaman.
Yeah,
That's
Deathrite
his
Shaman
best
is
card.
the key card. He needs to land a turn 1 Deathrite Shaman, which will allow him to pretty much play around Daze, play around his opponent's Wastelands, and stop Threshold from happening. Because if a Nimble Mongoose is only a 1/1 and you have a 1/2 Deathrite Shaman, you're in great shape. So I
Right.
think that's the key card in this matchup. Other than that, Abrupt Decay is very important. We saw Chris have 2 Abrupt Decays in his hand at the end of that game. Unfortunately, no Goyf, no Delver really did him in. Instead, it was the 2 Nimble Mongoose that attacked him and brought Jacob up a game.
And if you remember on turn 1, Chris Roberts on the play had the Deathrite Shaman, but Jacob Wilson knew that was the key card. He force of willed that right away.
Yeah, force willed and moving Gataxian Probe. And again, Gataxian Probe is something you don't really see. I kind of wonder why Jacob chose Gataxian Probe.
And so many of them too. You know, players play different cards in that slot. They sometimes play 1 of Spell Pierce, 2 of Spell Pierce. They sometimes play like an extra red burn spell, a Forked Bolt, or
Sure,
something.
exactly.
But Jacob opted for the probes to really streamline his deck, give him some extra information for this open.
Okay, now what do you think about Jacob? Does he have anything that he wants to bring in this matchup?
Yeah, he'll bring in things like a Vendilion Click. That'll be pretty good to fight against the slower blue deck. He'll bring in a Jace the Mind Sculptor. He might bring in Submerge. It depends what he puts Chris Roberts on. If he thinks Chris Roberts is playing more like a landstill type deck, he won't, but if he puts him on what he is, he should bring that in.
Yeah, now remember, Jacob did Gataxian Probe Chris Roberts on turn 1. He did see Hemtatora. He saw
okay,
Daze.
yeah.
He saw Brainstorm. You know, he saw some of Chris's cards. Didn't see the whole thing.
Right, he saw no Tarmogoyf, which is pretty important. He has to assume that's there, but he didn't see Tombstalker, he didn't see Delver Secrets.
Yeah, but I think just based on the fact that he saw Deathrite Shaman, he's going to bring in those Submerges.
I think so too.
Yeah.
Other than that, it's just a lot of one-ofs. He has 2 Pyroblast. He'll bring in 1 or 2 of those as well. Chris Roberts doesn't actually have that many blue cards, but you still have to bring it in.
Yeah, the most important blue card to actually try to stop is probably Brainstorm.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Brainstorm is so powerful, especially when you're playing like a mana denial strategy like Jacob Wilson is with his Wastelands and his Dazes and Stifles and all that good stuff. So I expect to see him Pyroblast, Brainstorm, or Ponder.
All right, so both players will lay out their 7 cards. We'll see what ends up happening here.
Yep, Chris Roberts on the play with his Bug Delver deck. He's going to look to have a nice little defensive draw because he is not the beatdown in this matchup.
All right, let's see if both players are going to keep. Jacob says he'll keep as well, it looks like. So these players should be off. There is a turn 1 Bayou, and there is a Deathrite Shaman. Jacob, no Force of Will this time. He'll draw for the turn. There's even a chance that he boarded out his Force of Wills, because Force of Will is like pretty bad against decks that run Hemtatora.
Yeah, you're pretty much doing exactly what the Hemtatora deck wants you to do, which is 2 for 1 yourself, playing into its card denial strategy.
Yeah, so there's a good chance that, you know, for the most part, a lot of players play Force of Will just to keep the combo decks in check.
Right.
That's what, you know, that's when Force of Will really shines.
Exactly. Most decks don't, or actually, I should say most decks shouldn't even play 4 Force of Will unless they're a deck like Rug Delver or a deck like Bug Delver. A deck like Stoneblade, 4 Force of Will is usually a mistake, I would say.
All right, so Verdant Catacomb is getting sacked. Does Jacob Wilson have a Stifle? He does not. And it looks like Chris will probably search for an Underground Sea here. And I wouldn't be surprised if I saw a Hemtatora come out of Chris's hand right here. We'll find it in a second. Chris falls to 19 from the sack land. You know, in Legacy there is a lot of shuffling, so lots of times the matches will go long. And the one thing that players need to do, they need to play at a reasonable pace because they don't really want to pick up too many draws.
Oh, and there it is. There's the hymn with Daze mana available.
Oh, but not Spell Pierce
Not
mana.
Spell Pierce.
And that's going to get countered. And I believe a Delver of Secrets is going to come down now. Chris will add a blue mana for the Deathrite Shamans by removing the Verdant Catacombs, and will drop a Delver of Secrets.
Yep, so Chris Roberts really develops his board 4 permanents to Jacob's 1, but Chris Roberts has no Force of Will and no Daze available to him, so Jacob can do whatever he wants to this turn, including drop a Tarmogoyf.
Yeah, a Goyf will be okay right here. The Deathrite Shaman will keep the Goyf in check, and Delver of Secrets as long as it flips. which it most likely will flip you this turn or next due to a ponder, could just fly over that Goyf.
Right, so here's Brainstorm during Jacob Wilson's main phase. He's looking to put his 2 worst cards back and then shuffle them away with a Misty Rainforest. He's just looking to sculpt his hand, trying to find some answers to the Deathrite. And it looks like he found the Lightning Bolt there. So I expect to see him cast that. He knows that his opponent doesn't have Daze, or he would have dazed the Spell Pierce on the him. So he should just probably go for this main phase Lightning Bolt here.
And take care of the Deathrite Shaman, or do you want to take care of the Delver Seekers?
I would cold that Deathrite Shaman right now. That really neuters Jacob's game plan.
That's definitely fair. Let's see if he does that. Misty Rainforest is sacked. He'll be searching over Volcanic Island right here.
So Jacob's mana's online. He has 2 blue, 1 red, 1 green, which is absolutely perfect.
So you think 100% of the time he goes after the Deathrite?
That's what I would do.
Okay.
I'm not a Grand Prix winner, but we'll see.
Yeah, we'll find out in a second. Is that a Tombstalker in Chris's hand?
He has a couple of them in his deck.
Yeah,
I think it might have been.
I think it is. Delver will check, and there's a Brainstorm. All right, so now Jacob has to worry about a 3/2 flyer. Brainstorm gets drawn. Now, if your hand is Ponder, Brainstorm, along with a Tombstalker and a Sackland, what would you lead off first with? Do you want a Brainstorm or do you want a Ponder?
The ordering of these spells is always really tricky. I would lead off Ponder, but I'm not sure if it's right.
I think I want Ponder as well. Try to get one of the good cards out of the 3.
Right.
Keep it in your hand, and then shuffle away the other 2 that you don't really want. Instead, he goes with a Brainstorm.
Yeah, not the worst choice. I mean, the spells are really functionally similar, but if you're going to play one of these 2 blue spells during your main phase, why not play the sorcery too?
Sure. Looks like he put that Tombstalker towards the front. Maybe he wants to get rid of it, but I think the Tombstalker will be very good against Rug Delver. For a Rug Delver to answer a Tombstalker, it's going to have to take 2 cards for the most part.
Yeah, he can submerge it in response to a fetch land, but if Chris has played a lot of Legacy, he should know that Jacob Wilson's going to be bringing in Submerges, and hopefully won't open himself up to Submerge.
Yeah, I mean, Submerge is a card that kind of died down recently. Submerge was really big, and all of a sudden people started cutting them from their sideboard, playing less and less. However, Jacob is playing 3 copies, is that correct?
3 Submerge in the board,
yeah. 3 Submerge.
0 Dismember.
All right, so Chris is taking his time here. He's going to drop that Polluted Delta. Would you expect a Hand of Torok right now from Chris, or do you think he wants to try to either pass the turn with I think it's a second Brainstorm, is that correct?
Ponder, Brainstorm, Tombstalker, I think, yeah.
Okay, so he had a Brainstorm, and he brainstormed into a second Brainstorm along with the Hand of Torok?
I believe so. Hard to tell with those foils that glare, but we'll try and let you guys know. It looks like he has 3 cards in hand.
Okay, so it looks like he's not going for a Hand of Torok now, just because he's getting his second green source. And we'll find out what he's going to play instead.
Yep, let's see.
Yeah, there was a second Brainstorm.
So Brainstorm, him, Delver.
Okay, so he got rid of the Tombstalker.
Interesting.
Okay.
He must not value that card in this matchup.
Yeah, I mean, he almost could cast it since he has 4 cards in his graveyard, and Tombstalker does cost 8 mana, but because of Delve, it could be a lot cheaper.
Right. Ideally, it'll cost about 3 mana.
All right, so there's his second Delver of Secrets. And Jacob drawn a Pyroblast, which is really good here. That's definitely a good draw. He's able to now play a Tarmogoyf and Pyroblast the flip Delver. So I think he's going to lead off with a Pyroblast, and he does just that. Points to the Insectile Aberration.
Yeah, he wants to get that off the board while Chris Roberts is tapped out.
And there's a good shot of Tombstalker in case you guys are not sure what it does. Tombstalker reprinted in Modern Masters as well.
Yeah, they brought back Delve a little bit in that set.
All right, and there's a Goyf. So Chris will cast a Brainstorm on upkeep to make sure that Delver Secrets will flip. So there's 1, there's 2, there's 3. I see an Abrupt Decay.
Oh, looks like Dark Blast.
I see a Dark Blast. So I guess he'll probably flip it with Abrupt Decay, and then just Abrupt Decay that Goyf right now, get it out of the way.
Right, to give Jacob Wilson as little information as possible. He doesn't want to show him Dark Blast. Why not show him the card that you're going to cast this turn? Alternatively, he could just him too. He could show him and just him Jacob Wilson.
Yeah, I don't think you want to him right now. I think it's more important to get rid of the threat.
Right.
I think the Rug Delver deck doesn't really care about a Hemtork most of the time. So I think I would go with Abrupt Decay here.
Okay.
And I think Chris might be setting up that way. We'll find out in a second. There's the Abrupt Decay.
Yep, so you were right. It looks like he's going to decay that Tarmogoyf.
All right.
Now, unfortunately for Chris, he doesn't have a fetch land or a shuffle effect to go with his Brainstorm, so he's going to be stuck drawing the other Abrupt Decay and the Dark Blast.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it's necessarily that bad.
No, it's not. It would be bad if he, say, brainstormed into, like, non-fetch land, like, say, another Underground Sea or another Bayou.
Sure.
But they're spells, so that's good.
All right, so Jacob Wilson draws a Scalding Tarn. He attacks with a Goyf, but Abrupt Decay is played, which we would suspect, and there's a Brainstorm. Now remember, Abrupt Decay can't be countered, so there's no need for Jacob to, in response, brainstorm, try to find a counter or anything like that.
Right, and alternatively, there's no reason for Chris Roberts to do it on his own turn either.
Exactly. All right, so it looks like Jacob's hand is very good. He has another Brainstorm, he has a Wasteland, and he has a Lightning Bolt. So I think right here, Wastelanding the Underground Sea would be a start, and then I would follow it up with Lightning Bolt, the Delver.
Wow, instead he plays Misty Rainforest.
Okay.
I wonder if he's protecting against something, maybe a Spell Pierce?
All right, and there's a Nimble
Oh, no,
Mongoose.
he's tapped.
Mario Martinez to the main event stage, please. Mario Martinez.
So Jacob just with Brainstorm in hand, and I think Chris needs to go for that Hemp-to-Torok.
Yeah.
And Chris realizes that as well. Now, what do you think Jacob's going to do? Is he going to sack the fetch land, Brainstorm in response? I think I would want to do that as well, right?
Yeah, I don't see any reason not to. He has a Wasteland on top of his deck, correct?
Yes.
So, unless he really wants to draw that Wasteland, which doesn't seem that good.
But yeah, if he really wanted to, he would have just Wastelanded, yeah.
Right, so Jacob Wilson going to Brainstorm in response. Keep the 2 out of the 3 best cards from that Brainstorm on top.
Exactly. So Jacob's hoping that there's just land and then 2 good spells.
Right.
All right, so this is a pretty important turn right here. If Brainstorm, bricks out, if Jacob just hits something like land, which is very unlikely because if it is land, most likely it would be sack lands.
Mm-hmm.
But I guess it could be like multiple Wasteland draw, which that wouldn't be that bad either.
Yeah, it could be a few things. It could be Stifle, it could be Spell Pierce, cards that aren't that good.
All right, so Spell Pierce gets discarded, and Chris will pass the turn. Jacob will attack for 3.
Yeah, I bet Chris is really wishing he had that Tombstalker right now.
Yeah, exactly. And Jacob just ships it back. Let's see what Chris draws here. Can't make it out, but nothing too good maybe because he just passes the turn.
Yeah, not an instant, clearly. And pretty interesting from Jacob Wilson. 0 Force of Will seen or drawn or pondered into this game. So I think he's taken out at least 2, probably all of them.
Yeah, probably all of them. Normally I'll put out my Force of Will against any non-combo deck.
Right.
Or any deck that doesn't really have a huge haymaker like Jace the Mind Sculptor. Alright, Nimble Mongoose attacks again. Chris really looking for something. There's a Hemp-to-Torok. Let's see what Jacob's holding on to. Ooh,
Wow.
Snapcaster Mage.
That's huge.
Yeah, a Bolt's going to go to Chris's face, it looks like.
Yeah, alternatively, if Jacob Wilson's last card is good, he could Spell Pierce, but likely it's just like a Stifle, something like that, and it'll be a Bolt.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, maybe Brainstorm.
Okay, that's good too. That maybe means Jacob Wilson's last card is good. Wants to protect that.
Yeah, I guess so.
But,
I mean, if you wanted to protect
kind
me,
of
you could
odd.
Spell Pierce.
Yeah. Oh, okay. His last card was a Submerge.
Okay, that's
So
fair, I guess. But if you were just to Bolt Chris goes up to 9, attacks both his guys, he's at 4.
yeah, that's really strange from Jacob Wilson. Brainstorm up to 2 cards, and now both the cards have to get pitched.
Yeah, it just to hide 1 card where he could just go to the dome with the Bolt. I think I really like going to the dome there.
Yeah. Jacob Wilson instead. Let's see what he's able to do instead. What did he hide? A Nimble Mongoose. Now it looks pretty smart.
Well, he didn't know that Nimble Mongoose was there.
No, he didn't.
So it just, yeah, I guess I want to ask Jacob about that play probably after the match. We'll try to go find him and see what his thought process is because Legacy is so intricate, it's so difficult to play, and so many players take different lines.
Right.
So I'm really curious to learn and see, hey, why did you take this line? Why did you not take this line? And you could really learn a lot. All right, there's a Dark Blast on that Snapcaster Mage.
Yeah, this game is really, or I should say, this match has really just been showcasing the power of Nimble Mongoose. Chris Roberts really unprepared.
Last
for this
turn
card.
right here. And yeah, that's
Wow.
it. All right, so Jacob Wilson moves on to 3-0, which is a great start. Again, this is a 9-round tournament. Yesterday it was 10 rounds, 1 8 and 2 got in. Here's 9 rounds, and it looks like you're going to have to go at least 7-1-1 to get in.
That's right.
There's going to be no 7-2s this time.
Yep, this tournament had 305 players, so a really good showing for a Legacy Open.
Exactly.
Definitely short of the cut to 10. The cut to 10 is about 410, 411, somewhere right in that range. So maybe an X and 2 will make it, but more likely today we'll see a lot more players battling it out for that last spot in top 8.
Yeah. Now, what do you think about this Bug Delver deck? Do you like it? Do you not like it? Some people say Delver of Secrets and Deathrite Shaman doesn't go together. I don't necessarily agree with that. I think you could make a good deck with Delver and Deathrite.
Yeah, I think you can. I think this deck is a little schizophrenic here. I think that Chris is trying to be a little too controller. He has 3 Liliana, he has Hymn to Torox, Abrupt Decay's Tombstalkers. These don't go all that well with Delvers, and well, they go well with Deathrites, but not really Delvers.
Yeah.
I would try and focus it more on the black-green aspect, maybe. I don't know. I'm not a big fan of this deck right now.
And cut the Delvers. Yeah, the whole thing is that looking at it, he has Lilianas, he has 3 Lilianas, he has 2 Tombstalkers, that's 5, 4 Tarmogoyfs is 9, 4 Deathrite Shamans, 13.
That's a ton of creatures for
he also
Legacy.
has 4 Delver Secrets, that's 17.
Yeah, that's a ton of creatures for a Legacy deck.
So, well, the Lilianas aren't the creatures. I was
Okay.
just basically counting the non-instant or sorcery
Oh,
spell
okay.
count for Delver.
Sorcery,
How
right.
often is